What if I told you your retirement account investments weren't stuck in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds? What if I told you you can take that money and go invest in real estate, cryptocurrency, do some private lending, invest in a small business? Well, both those statements are true because what I'm outlining is a concept called self-directing, being the puppeteer and the one who controls your retirement account monies. That's what we're going to get into today. Guys, thanks for tuning in. My name's Andrew D'Amico, CPA, partner here at Ledgerly, alongside my right-hand man, my partner in crime, Mike Abrahamian, also a CPA, where we focus on tax advisory services for our clients. And under that umbrella, we're talking not only tax strategy and asset protection, but something like here today, talking about that generational family wealth buildup, where it's not all about saving $1 today to get a dime tomorrow. Self-directing is a way you can pour gasoline on the fire, how you could really grow those retirement accounts. So if you're sick and tired of the 5-10% you get every year or being stuck in bonds, stocks, and mutual funds, keep listening. So this is one of our strategies that is actually open to anybody. Anybody with earned income can open an IRA. IRA being an individual retirement account. A lot of incredible tax strategies we have, you need to be a business owner in order to unlock it. Not here, not with self-directing. You can work a corporate job, you can work a day job, 9 to 5, and you can go out and open a self-directed account where you can take advantage of what we're going to get into here. So self-directing, I'm specifically talking about retirement accounts, your IRAs, your 401ks, even HSAs, health savings account. You can self-direct that as well, but you don't need to be a business owner to do so. So that's enough chit chat. I want to get straight to the whiteboard, and we're going to talk through how you can do this. What are the pros? What are the cons? What to look out for? What are some examples? We're going to get into all that, but we're going to keep it high level. But I'm talking to the person who's hungry and is like, you know what? I know I can beat the market, and maybe not in the market. I'm saying do better than the market by doing real estate, by doing crypto or other creative investments. Like I said, without further ado, let's get to the whiteboard. All right, so we're at the whiteboard. First off, before you get too gung-ho and you're ready to start doing this, just know that a lot of these brokers don't allow for self-directing. They may say they do, but they don't really mean it. What I mean by that is like, they'll tell you, oh, you can choose any stock you want. Of course, yeah, you can. We don't have to manage it for you. You can go out and disperse the monies wherever you want. Then they call that self-directing. But you are pigeonholed into stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. I don't know. Self-directing is really when you have the freedom, you have what's called checkbook control, and you can move the money where you want to. So I'm talking about you're not going to be able to do it at Fidelity or like a People's Credit Union, or what are some of the popular ones, or like a TD Ameritrade. You're not going to be able to do this self-directing over there. You got to get over to a different custodian, like a directed IRA. If you've listened to us enough, you know we're plugged in with Mark Kohler's tax advisory network and his business partner, Matt Sorensen. They have directed IRA, which specializes in self-directing. So they'll give you the freedom to move the money where you want. Now, they're not the only ones, but we just plug them because they've been great to us in the network. They've been an incredible resource. So you can pop over to directed IRA and open up an account, or you can go to like an equity trust. No, sir, you're not going to be able to do some real estate or crypto or whatever over on this left side of the screen, but over on the right side, that's where we want to be. So if you have retirement accounts now and you're interested in self-directing, maybe we look into rollover options. You go over to directed IRA, you connect with someone, you say like, hey, yep, I'm ready to begin self-directing. They'll walk you through the steps about how to roll over your account monies over onto the right side. So you have the freedom to start using it. Now, no, if you're at a current day job with a 401k, you're not going to be able to self-direct that, more likely than not. But if you're your own business owner and you're getting ready to set up your own 401k for your employees, set it up through directed. You could put away more money into a 401k than you can an IRA every year. The IRA limit's $7,000. But if you can get that 401k in there and start putting in 20, 30, 40, 50,000 a year, you have a lot more at your disposal that you can work with. So that's where you can and where you can't. We're going to move down a little bit here. Pros, cons, where we've been talking about. Invest in what you want so you have control of your investments. And this will help you diversify. So you're not just stuck in those three, right? Stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. You have the opportunity for higher returns. And all the while we're doing this, if we're doing this in a Roth account, which we highly recommend, all this money is going to grow and eventually come out when you need it in retirement tax-free. That's the cream of the crop, baby. Now, on the flip side, listen, this isn't perfect. Said it a bunch of times. It is high level. So with that comes some complexity. We'll touch on some prohibited transactions, as well as UBIT and UDFI, unrelated business income tax, and unrelated debt financed income. What do those mean? You got to watch out for those. So yes, there are some rules with setting up on one of these platforms. You're probably going to have higher fees. But again, if we can earn a greater return, it's going to trump those fees. And then depending on what you're investing in, there could be a liquidity risk. So those are all things to keep in mind. Like I said, this is not going to be for absolutely everybody, and that's cool. But you should know the benefits as well as the downsides. New scratch pad. So how do we go about even doing this? So I mentioned, right, you're going to want to go to like a directed IRA. So first, we're going to identify our custodian. That's what they're called. And then we're going to open the account. And again, we recommend doing this Roth. You could certainly do it with traditional if you want the tax deduction today, but just know that all the returns you're going to get, and when you eventually take the money out, it's going to be taxed. So that's why we say Roth, Roth, Roth all day. Now, once we're in there, we got the account. Okay, cool. Now we got to fund it. Whether that's getting a rollover from an old IRA or you changed employers and now you got to roll over that 401k, let's look at rolling it over to fund this new self-directed account. So we got to fund it somehow. And then in number 4, we'll draw up some diagrams. But if we're going to invest in a real estate, hey, we're probably going to want to have an LLC so we can get some asset protection into the picture. So let's get an LLC going. And what you're going to do is it's going to be in the name of the IRA. It's not going to be in your personal name. Remember, these are retirement accounts. We don't want to trigger any tax due today. Like any investments that you're allowed to do by law, you could certainly do outside of your retirement account. But when you make the money, you're going to pay taxes. So that's why it's great to go through a retirement account, especially a Roth, because now we could defer any of that tax. So on the LLC, if you were to put yourself down as the owner and then fund it with the Roth, that's not going to work, because they would say, hey, that's ultimately benefiting you at the end of the day personally, because you're the owner of that business and now you have access to your retirement account funds. They would say, no, that's a distribution of your retirement account. You're going to pay tax on that, and you're going to pay a penalty for taking it out early. We don't want to do that. So the LLC, when we set it up, it's going to be in name of your IRA. Now, what you're going to have to do is appoint yourself as the manager so you have access to those funds. I keep talking about real estate. So if you appoint yourself as a manager of that LLC with no ownership, now you can open up a bank account for the LLC. You can go out and find and sign deals on behalf of the LLC because now you are a manager. But this does not mean when you start making money in these investments that you're going to pay yourself a salary from the LLC. Again, they're going to say, they, as in the IRS, is going to disallow this and say, no, sir, you're benefiting yourself personally from retirement accounts. You can't touch that until you retire. So we want to avoid that, but you will need to be a manager so you can help carry out the activity. And then what's last but not least, start investing. Let's find some deals. Let's get out there. Those are your steps in a snippet. Now let's talk about an example. You've seen Mike and myself talk and draw up the trifecta, right? Where we have our operations on the left side, our passive investments on the right side. We're talking about the right side right now. So that's where all of our passive activities come from. Retirement accounts are passive, right? They're long-term. More or less, they're set in and forget it. Self-directing, not so much because you got to find the deals, but you get the idea. It's the long-term play. So we're going to say passive. I kept the left side small because we're not over here right now. But on the passive side, right? Let's say you got that IRA. Let's say you have a 401k. Let's say you have an HSA. Now, if these are all set up correctly, with the right custodian, you can self-direct those. You can have access to those monies. So let's talk in a Roth IRA example. You want to start getting into rentals or real estate in general. Now you're going to form an LLC and your IRA is going to be the 100% owner. You're saying, Andrew, well, my 401k has a lot more money in it. I would really love to supplement the funds I have at my disposal and get them involved and do like a 50-50 split. You certainly could do that, but just know when you have 2 members, when you have more than 1 member in an LLC, by default, you're a partnership. And now this has got to kick out a 1065 tax return. So there's costs associated with that. Now there's still going to be, as long as you're doing everything right, it's going to kick out 2K1s for your 2 partners, but it's to your IRA. It's to your 401k. And so long as you don't trip any thresholds, break any rules, you're not going to have to file an income tax return for the IRA and the 401k, but you still do have to do that 1065 by law. So that's why I'm saying let's just stick with a single member and let's just stick with the IRA opening up its own LLC. In this example, we open up an LLC, it buys a rental property, and now we're off to the races. Now, in order to get that property, you might have to take out a mortgage, which is okay. But just know you'd be introducing UDFI if you have to take out loans to help fund your investments. And when you have UDFI in the picture, you're subject to tax. but it's only on the portion that's attributable to the amount outstanding. So that's something to know. But in this picture, we got that rental property. We start renting it out to tenants. We start getting rental income, which all the monies, all the profits go back into the LLC bank account. And then it stays there. Like I said, you're not going to pay yourself a salary because we don't want to trigger any distributions and taxation on that and disallow this as a retirement account activity. But just on the face, you can have a rental property through your IRA LLC, your 401k, you can go invest this in some crypto. And then with your HSA, you could do some private lending. Instead of actually going out and getting the rental property, you can negotiate with someone who's trying to flip the property. They're like, yeah, I want to buy this property. I want to fix it up and then sell it for more, but I don't have the money. So private lending. You say, hey, yeah, I'll give you 40K out of my HSA, but I want 12% back. That's a viable deal. You can't do that through Fidelity, can you? So my point being, you can self-direct multiple accounts. You can throw it into different investments, and it's all going to be tax-free because once you get the money back, it's going back into these accounts. There's nothing going down to you at the 1040 level. So those are some things you could do and kind of how it would work. Now, some things I mentioned you want to be aware of are, listen, this is more complex. There's something called prohibited transactions. And now what these are outlining, it's not so much about the activity, what you're doing, it's about who you're doing it with. So in the trifecta above, those were all our personal self-directed retirement accounts. But now let's say you want more funding. So you need other people to come in on the project with you. And you're like, oh, my wife's got a big IRA. Like, let's go on this together. I would pump the brakes because you can't deal directly with family members with self-directing your accounts. For whatever reason, the IRS doesn't like it. They're going to say it's benefiting you personally, and they're going to disallow the activity and charge you tax on it. So it's a slippery slope when it comes to prohibited transactions, and we want to make sure we're staying as far away from those as possible. So I said family. You could do it with some family, but I think it would be just easy if we did like a family tree. So let's say this is, we'll talk from islands, right? So this is me right in the middle. All right. So I am the IRA account holder that's self-directing. Anything in red that I'm about to draw up, I cannot transact with. So parents, they're no-no. If I had children, lineal descendants, that's another no-no. And if my children had children, quite a ways away from that, but they can't do it either. Even branching off of children, they go ahead and get married. So I'll just say in-law. No, they're off the table as well. Sure as heck can't go into it with my spouse. So there's a lot of people on here you want to be careful of. Working on colors here. Let's see if this works. So what if I go to parent-in-law? So let's say father. Oh, okay, I guess we got purple. Father-in-law? That's fair game. For what reason? Not sure. Don't shoot the messenger. These are just the IRS rules on disqualified people. So for whatever reason, you can indeed go in on a deal with your father or mother-in-law. I talked about lineal descendants, but what about siblings? They're fair game. You can get them involved even further. Aunts, uncles, cousins, these guys, why not? They're fair game. But anybody in red on this screen, you cannot transact with. And now I want to go back to UBIT, especially. I know we touched on UDFI a little bit where it's going to trigger some tax, but what is UBIT? Unrelated Business Income Tax. So that's when your retirement investment, again, this is passive in nature, but if you fund a small business that you're actively involved in, if you're generating ordinary income, let's go to the trifecta, right? We have our ups on the left, passive on the right. We've been dealing on this right side, right? But if you open up a business that is really an operational business funded by your IRA, if it's a restaurant that you're actively managing, you're in the day-to-day, that's a no-no. It's going to trigger UBIT, and that could be costly. Now, I'm not saying if it's a great opportunity and the only monies you can use are your retirement account monies that you can't do this, but just know that you're going to get hit with the tax. The UBIT is very low. The first bracket is up to 3K, give or take. That's going to be 10%. The next bracket is 11.4. That jumps straight up to 24%. And then any money over that up to 15K. Again, I'm kind of rounding here just to keep it simple and on the screen, but that's 35%. And then if you get over $15,651 in 2025, you're at 37%. So the barrier is much lower. So if you're running a successful operating business through your IRA, know that you are going to get nailed with this 37%, which is what we want to avoid. Now, one thing you could do is introduce what we call a blocker C Corp, which, if you're familiar, C corporations have a flat federal tax rate of 21%. I say I'm no math magician. I kind of am, but being an accountant at all, kind of have to. 21% is lower than 37%. So by introducing a C Corp into this picture, now we're going to block that 37%. Now, why we introduce the C Corp into this structure is that now the IRA is going to invest and hold the stock of a C Corp. You're going to earn the ordinary income in the C Corp structure. But now when you go to put the profits back into the IRA, it's going to be a dividend. And there are exemptions to UBIT, one of those being dividend income. So by issuing this dividend here, instead of getting stuck, like I said, at this 37%, now we're just going to be paying 21%. Again, if the juice is worth the squeeze and you think your best course of action is to run an operating business with your IRA money, your self-directed money, 21% is better than 37%. So let's go ahead and do it. So listen, guys, I know we kept that kind of high level and we sped through all the different things, pros, cons, how to do it and set it up. But if you're tired of being stuck in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and you're really ready to pour money onto your retirement savings, this is the way to do it, through self-directing. Get higher rates of return, get more tax-free growth, have more tax-free money for retirement, and that's what we're all about. Guys, if you like this, if you want to learn more as it comes to tax advising, asset protection strategies, generational wealth strategies, get in touch with us today, subscribe to this channel, book us for a call, and let's see how we can help you.